Guerrilla Games recently confirmed they have a full slate of different Horizon projects in the works. Everything from a single-player Horizon 3 to a multiplayer co-op to a Netflix TV show. No doubt, if you're a fan of the Horizon series, we are eating good and things are just getting started. But with no firm release dates at this point for any of those projects, it could be a while before we get anything new. And if you've already beaten the Forbidden West, you might be left wondering how you're going to make it another year or two without a new cauldron to explore, a new tall neck to unlock, or a new bandit camp to conquer. Fortunately though, the Forbidden West is absolutely chock full of things to do. Even after more than 370 hours in the game, every time I jump back in, I still manage to find something new. So here's my list of things to do after beating Horizon Forbidden West to help keep the game fresh and exciting for a long time to come. And if you like the Forbidden West as much as I do, be sure to boop that like button. Alright, let's get into it. Now let's get some obvious ones out of the way right off the bat. If you haven't yet played the Burning Shores DLC, I definitely recommend you do so. It's set in an awesome new location, adds some must-have new legendary weapons and armors, and the story, while a bit rushed in parts, is really solid. But since that's a PS5 exclusive, I know that playing it still isn't an option for a lot of people, so I won't focus on that here. Some other obvious but notable things to do in the Forbidden West are to complete the arena challenges, finish all the hunting grounds, race in all the gauntlet runs, go for the platinum trophy, and collect all the things. Anyone who's a fan of Horizon knows that there are a ton of things to do and collect in the Forbidden West. Too many things to talk about here. But no doubt if you wanted to get lost in the world and collect and complete everything the game has to offer, you certainly could spend quite a lot of time doing so. Personally, I'm not a completionist, and sometimes getting those things just for the sake of getting them feels like a bit of a grind. So again, not going to focus on that here. If you are interested in tracking down all the collectibles, I'll leave a link in the description below to a map genie that can point you in the right direction. But next, let's talk about New Game Plus. Once you've finished the main quest, you have the option to start a New Game Plus, which will restart the story but allows you to keep your weapons, armor, skills, and inventory. This is another obvious choice, but let's look at a couple of things that we can do in New Game Plus that'll give us a bit of a different experience. Starting out with trying a new build. With all the different armors, weaves, and valor surges in the Forbidden West, there are a ton of options to put together different builds depending on your particular playstyle. And New Game Plus is the perfect opportunity to branch out and try something new. A build that I've been really wanting to try is a low health build. With the low health build, using armor like the Tenakth Vanquisher or the Tenakth Reaver, you'll get buffs to your damage output as well as increased defense when your health is below a certain point. With the right weaves and weapons, you can basically become indestructible while also dealing insane amounts of damage. I've also seen some really interesting builds that revolve around the Trapper playstyle. Using armors like the Karja Stalker Elite, which is probably the best looking armor in any game ever, this is where you prioritize stealth and using tripwires and traps to take down machines. But I'm curious what other types of builds people are using. I love hearing about the creative builds that people are able to put together. If you've got a good idea for a build or one that you prefer to use to keep things interesting, make sure to let me know in the comments below. Another way to help keep things fresh in New Game Plus is by specializing in particular weapons or weapon loadouts. The combat system in Forbidden West is extremely flexible, and there are a ton of different options to specialize in different weapons or weapon techniques. For example, in my last New Game Plus playthrough, I played with an all Shredder Gauntlet loadout. I made it my mission to collect and upgrade every Shredder Gauntlet and use my Shredder Gauntlet exclusively in combat. Shredder Gauntlets are hands down my favorite weapons in the game, so not only was this a challenge, it was also just a lot of fun. And I'm thinking on my next playthrough, I might do an all Warrior Bow loadout. Warrior Bows aren't typically my go-to when it comes to combat, so this will be a new challenge for me that I'm really looking forward to. I've also seen players play with all purple gear, so no legendary gear. A non-legendary weapons and armor playthrough on ultra hard difficulty sounds like a pretty interesting challenge to me. And speaking of ultra hard, replaying New Game Plus on ultra hard is the ultimate challenge. In ultra hard, machine health goes up, making it harder to take down machines. Machine damage goes up, making it harder to stay alive, and enemy awareness goes up, making it harder to sneak around.
Okay, so the scariest environment imaginable. Thanks. That's all you gotta say. Scariest environment imaginable.
There is definitely a learning curve when you jump into ultra hard, but for me, after I settled in and got used to it, going back into hard or even very hard difficulty just didn't seem like that much of a challenge. So I definitely recommend it for anyone wanting to switch things up. And if you are considering an ultra hard playthrough, Artix did a great breakdown on what to expect in ultra hard as well as tips and tricks for getting through it. I'll link to that video in the description below. The next thing we can do in New Game Plus to keep it fresh is to make different choices. Throughout the Forbidden West, we get different flashpoint moments within the story where we can choose between a fist, a brain, or a heart. Basically, a strong, a logical, or a compassionate response. Now, these choices don't ultimately affect the story, but they do give you some different dialogue and cutscenes depending on your choice. So selecting different options here than what you did originally could give you some interesting new dialogue and perspectives. There are also a handful of missions in the game where we're forced to make choices that can affect the outcome of that quest. For example, in the Gate of the Vanquished side quest, we're ultimately forced to choose between Yara or Draka to lead the Desert Tenakth clan. Again, the choice here doesn't necessarily impact the game in any sort of meaningful way, but choosing a different side on New Game Plus than what you did in your original playthrough can help give you a different experience. Also, towards the end of the game, you're given the choice to spare or kill Regala. If you choose to spare her, she'll ultimately fight by your side in the final mission, but if you kill her, you'll get Regala's Sharpshot bow as a reward. This is one of the best Sharpshot bows in the game, so this is definitely one where you'll want to choose the alternate option in your New Game Plus. Now, outside of a New Game Plus, and on a bit more of a somber note, there's a couple of memorial sites in the Forbidden West that definitely deserve a visit if you haven't seen them yet. There are tributes here to both real-world people as well as in-game fictional characters. The first, which was just recently added back in June 2023, is the memorial to the late Lance Reddick, the voice actor that played Silence. Lance passed away in March 2023, and his memorial can be found on an island north of Fleet's End in the Burning Shores. Next, there's a memorial to Patrick Munnick. Patrick was a lead producer at Guerrilla Games and passed away back in June 2019 before the release of Forbidden West. In his honor, there's a memorial on an island near the Slaughterspine site west of Thornmarsh.
Someone painted those markings with great care.
Lastly, and spoilers for the Forbidden West if you haven't completed the main story yet, but we lose Varl, one of Aloy's companions from the very beginning of Zero Dawn. There's a memorial for him which is located outside of the east entrance to the base. Now this one's not really hidden as it's part of the main mission to talk to Zoe there, but if you come back periodically and sit with Varl, there'll be new dialogue and Aloy talks to Varl about the different events of the game, including the Burning Shores.
After rescuing Beta and Gaia, I tracked down the last Zenith. Even took down a Horus he brought to life.
So it's definitely worth checking back every once in a while to get some new dialogue. And while these memorial sites don't impact the game in any way, they're worth paying a visit to. The Guerrilla team did a great job with these, and when you walk up to them and the music changes and you can just see the time and care they put into these sites, it's hard not to get emotional. Next, if you never played the original Horizon Zero Dawn or the Frozen Wilds DLC, or at least it's been a while since you've done so, I definitely recommend it. I'm not typically a huge fan of going back and replaying old games, but I did just recently replay through Horizon Zero Dawn and the Frozen Wilds on New Game Plus, and was surprised at how well it held up. The graphics still look great, and it was good to see some familiar faces and go back to some of the original origins.
Silence. That's my name. Now, why don't you try asking another question? Something less trivial.
I will say though, if you're used to the combat in Forbidden West, there's definitely a bit of a backwards learning curve jumping into Zero Dawn. I found that I really missed having my shield wing and a stash, and just being able to use the different Valor Surges and the different weapon types to help keep combat interesting. But despite that, if you need your fix of Horizon content, I definitely recommend playing or replaying Horizon Zero Dawn. And lastly, join the community. If you didn't already know, there's an absolutely great community of Horizon enthusiasts out there. This is another thing that, in my opinion, makes this game so special. We love talking about the game and sharing our experiences and challenges, and just helping each other out. Artix's Discord server is probably the most active and useful ones that I've found, but there are other Discords and Reddits out there that I encourage people to join. These are a great way to find new challenges and keep your love and enthusiasm for the game fresh. I'll put links to all of this in the description below, and if there's a community you're part of that I don't list, please let me know and I'll add that to the list. And that's my list of things to do after beating Horizon Forbidden West. If you made it this far in the video, be sure to give it a like, and make sure to subscribe for even more Horizon and PS5 gaming content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.